So let's continue now, and I wanted to show a couple more renders that we did that were not fully used in the edit or were trimmed, and I wanted to show the level of details that we have in our sim. And while doing this, I also wanted to briefly talk about the two main RBD techniques, or the techniques for creating destruction, and they pretty much there's two paths to go about this. There is either using a rigid body solver, and in this case we're gonna the primary one, or the most famous used solver, is the bullet solver, and the other path is to use the finite elements and FOM and Houdini, which is very slow but requires a lot less tweaking. Now ILM and other places, they not ILM, MPC and other places, they have developed a much faster FAM system, and they have their own techniques, and that's what they rely on. They basically take the geometry and they convert it into TDRA, or basically what is the input needed for FAM to do all its calculations, and from there they can generate all kinds of interesting bending and fracturing and tearing and all these all interesting effects. With bullet, with FAM it's slow but requires less tweaking. With bullet it's much faster to do the RBD sim for hundreds of thousands of pieces, or tens of thousands of pieces at least, and but it's a little bit, or it's trickier to create all the rules to get the bending, stretching, denting, and all the constraints and setups are overall a bit trickier, but it's faster to sim. So these are the two paths, and with Houdini we're going to be looking at RBDs primarily and using bullets. Now this is a first shot to show the destruction shot. As you can see, there's a lot of cool details here, and then I'll show this in a bit, and then these are two close-up shots. This is a mid, and as you can see as well, there's a lot of cool details here. You can see the fracturing, the patterns, and all the interior details is present, and it's the same amount of details here that was used here. You can see we're looking at it from this angle, and if you were to tackle just this one, you wouldn't need this much detail, but for me, I wanted to push it to the extreme and be able to do all kinds of cool details and close up and mid-range and stuff like that. So as you can see, there's a lot of details, there's a lot of intricate parts, and this whole block has a lot of cool RBD pieces on top of it. There is wood, there is metal, lamps are swinging, there is the glass, which we're going to talk about in a bit. There is the window glass, the lamps, they swing as well, and obviously we can turn them off as needed if we wanted to do that. And then the other shot is another even close up using a daylight light rig. As you can see, I started very close, and you can see the amount of details there, and there's secondary fracturing happening everywhere. There is debris, everything included. Okay, now let's take a look at some of the scene. This is a new feature in Houdini 17 for the viewport. If you press D, you see this purple thing. It's showing you the flipped face, or the basically back faces using a different color. So I'm just gonna turn that off because with RBD it happens quite a bit, but it's not gonna cause any problems. Now this is the final geometry that I used for rendering, and I believe it includes everything: the debris, glass. There's just the particles are not there, but everything related to the RBD sim is there. The cloth, there's another piece of cloth which I will show later, and wires as well. So let's take a look at what's happening here. Maybe I should go to the first frame to show the various layers. Now this building I did model all in Houdini, and it was built with destruction in mind, and this is something that I'm gonna briefly talk about, and it's very very important when it comes to creating realistic destruction. Now I believe this is a side note, but I believe the main reason we are attracted to destruction, or we like to see destruction, is the revealing aspect of it, not the crumbling. Not at least for me, there's not so much visual interest, or you're not pleased to see, for example, a stadium just going and falling down, or a whole building just collapsing, like a cube being crushed down. I don't think there's a lot of visual interest in there, but the fact is, when you see something getting destroyed and see everything that it gets revealed, that reveal part of seeing the wood, the wires, the bed inside the room, the tiles, the cloth, all that stuff is what we're curious about. That's the stuff we like to see when we see metals, for example, getting out of the concretes and stuff like that. I think, for me at least, that's the visual that is that has the interesting feeling to it. Everything else, if you just have a block of bricks and you create whatever destruction sim you're gonna make on top of that, it's not gonna look interesting. But once you start layering this and creating underneath or hidden structure inside of that and revealing that, it's gonna look much more realistic and interesting. Now let's take a look here. There's few parts that are missing. There's few small pieces that are missing, but overall this is the full building, or at least all the RBD related pieces, and this is what was used within the sim. Now I'm pressing the wireframe, looking at the wireframe mode, and you can see there is a lot of hidden inside structure. So there's this wall made of small squares that are all packed together. There's a metallic beam structure, which we'll show in a bit. There is a wood structure inside as well. So here, for example, this layer has wood and two plastic boxes or something to create debris, and there's metallic structure inside, and then bricks in front of it. If I can find it. But we're gonna dive into this later on. And all this I modeled in to create basically enough details so that when anything happens, or when the destruction happens, we start to see these interesting details being revealed. There's tiles on top of a small or a thin wood plank here, bricks and everything. These guys are also, there's a lot of details inside these pieces, and you can see the interior details here. Glasses, of course, wood for the wood frames, and then the ground as well. So let's scrub through a few frames. Let's go to frame 24, and this whole side here, it's currently static. I'm not activating any of that. And also there is a wood structure inside that we saw earlier. So it's taking a moment to update. As you can see, we have 15 million primitives, and I'm actually going to hide Kong if I can. It's hard. I don't remember where the nodes are, so for now we're gonna view the whole thing. And as you can see, there's a lot of interior details as well being revealed. It's wood structure, and then all these details are getting displayed or exposed as the geometry getting fractured. I think I have two geometry being overlapped at the moment, the one without interior details and the one with, and I'll explain all of this as we progress through the workshop. Now, this model has a lot of complex geometry. There's a lot of layers to it, and I'm gonna show various different techniques on how we're going to be able to handle all this complexity while still being able to iterate over the sim. And this is something that I'm gonna talk about in the next video, or in the next few videos. The being able to work with this resolution at this and keep the sim time reasonable is a very big challenge, and I designed a whole workflow so that we can do this with very limited amount of hardware. I mean, any i7 or any 6-core CPU with 32 gigabytes or more, you can do this resolution and even higher. And I have even more. I have one version that has more details than this one that I didn't end up using in the end. And you can see here there's a lot of close-up details as the leg gets pushed out. There's a lot of details here. There's bending in this structure, and as it bends out, it's tearing out everything related to it or connected to it, and everything that is above is also either falling down or reacting to its to the constraints that there is. And you can see the clustering behavior, which is very I mean, it depends on how we approach this, but being able to get these kind of blocks like that while still have all these fine details is actually very hard and challenging. But hopefully with this workflow, it's going to be a free feature that we're going to get. Okay, let's move on to a different frame here. Now, the good thing, or the main advantage of this workflow is speed. We're going to be able to iterate and quickly over the sim, and the whole sim time is 2 hours, but it is combined of 2 sims. So there is a primary sim, and this is a workflow that is very much needed in basically any production or any feature film or cinematics or anything like that, where you will have to work with animators that where they set up, let's say they choreograph specific pieces, and you need to keep them consistent. You need to keep those pieces the way you need to keep the animation the same way they give it to you, and add on top of that the interesting dynamic visuals to it, but you cannot change it. So this workflow is going to teach you how to work with that. Now, yeah, so this is the details that we have, and if I tell you that there is no secondary sims, there is no particle sims or anything on top of it, this is all included within the sim. All this resolution here, it's all included, and it's all interacting together. And again, the sim time is still below 2 hours for all of this. You can see this is being bent over. Let's go back here. Maybe, yeah, I'll find a couple more videos to show more features of the sim. And as we continue on this, we will get familiar with the model and how it is constructed, and how we're going to use it throughout the next weeks to basically set up the destruction and everything. Now, I have one more effects that I wanted to show, and this probably was not obvious in the promo videos, but as you can see, Kong here is moving his hands, and it's affecting this. There's this airfield here, and it's affecting all the smoke and everything. And if there's particles or anything floating, that will also get affected. This is the lamp underneath or on top of the window that is still on, but we can turn that off if we wanted to. Cool. Thank you guys for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.